Now, you've not just got radios here, but you've got virtually a history of tobacco in Ireland, I would say, with all the cigarette packets here.
I always reckoned every good radio person should be able to have a good wash with Sunlight soap,
Yeah.
shave with Max Smile blades,
Yeah.
and a smoke afterwards. As you see here, we have Players, Golf Lake, Chensidas, Woodbines. In fact, we have 4 Woodbines there.
Oh,
They're unusual.
They were the poor man's cigarette.
The
Yeah.
poor man's cigarette, you
Yeah.
know. And I gathered, you normally had them in packets of 5, 10 or 20s.
Yeah.
But this is an unusual packet of 4.
Yeah, I've never seen 4 before, yeah.
No, I gather that the government put taxes on the cigarettes.
Yeah.
And Wills has thought up an idea, rather than increasing the price of the packet of 5, to reduce them to 4 and charge the same price. So that's the way they've done away with it. So most schoolboys would have a packet and a match.
Yeah. I see they've Gold Flake here now. Those were very strong cigarettes now, from what I remember.
Well, I
they
gather the
still have
Woodbines
them?
were stronger.
Were they, yeah?
Yes, I smoked them all at one stage.
Yeah, yeah.
In my youth, of course, like most
Yeah.
people.
And Capstan Full Strength. They
Capstan
were
full
strong,
strength,
weren't
they were strong, all right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think Woodbine was supposed to be the daddy of them all, you know.
yeah, yeah,
They were supposed to be the strongest.
yeah.
Well, you have something in there. In fact, I loaned that to the museum in Croke Park.
Yeah.
You see the footballer and hurler here,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Tipperary hurler and the Dublin footballer.
Yeah.
They were used by players to advertise their cigarettes.
Yeah.
On all grounds, players, please.
Yeah. Oh, and of course it's a double meaning. The players, the
absolutely.
football players and
Absolutely, yeah.
players' cigarettes.
Yeah, yeah. There's the old roll up there.
Oh, Old Holborn. That's
Yes,
that's still on the go, I think,
that's
isn't
a machine.
it?
That's
Yeah.
a little machine for rolling.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a little, an early wind-up shaver there.
Yeah.
You wound it up. There's a key on the back.
Oh,
of it.
a clockwork shaver.
And the clockwork shaver, where you wound up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And here you've got the cigarette
radio celebrities.
the cigarette cards.
Yes.
The little
Unfortunately, the place is not large enough to display everything.
yeah,
So a lot of these things are in confined spaces.
yeah, yeah.
You have a little document there of the Sligo and Northern.
Oh, the Sligo, Leitrim and
Counties
Northern
Railway,
Counties
yeah.
Railway Company.
And would be Countess Markovic's family that owned that.
Oh, the Gore Booths, yeah.
Gore Boots, if
Yeah.
you can see it written on it there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they actually had that share.
Yeah. This is to certify that on the date hereof, Sir Jocelyn Augustus Richard Gore Booth, Baronet of Lissadell, Sligo, is the registered proprietor of £1,000 of this stock, dated the 31st day of October, 1903, and signed on the bottom.
Not a bad bit of money to have at that time.
It is not. It's a big whack of money to have in 1903.
Yeah, this is Cuba Submarine Telecompany,
Oh, yeah.
Telegraph Company there as well.
Oh, yeah. The Cuba Submarine Telegraph Company. I presume that they're referring to the wire under the
absolutely.
sea rather
Wire
than
under
submarines. and
Absolutely,
such,
yeah.
Yeah.
Which we probably missed upstairs.
Yeah.
I have a case up there with all the cables.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
You
on the
saw
wall.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
the cable. Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
the cable.
You have world radio here and different things in this case.
Yeah,
And first day covers.
yeah.
There was World Radio, was a magazine there.
Yeah.
A couple of copies of it.
What's this yoke here now?
That was a Marconi viewer,
Yeah,
as you can see there.
yeah.
Stamped on it. And I gather that was down on the station in Rosslare. Marconi had a station, a wireless station in
What did
Rosslare.
it do? Did you look through it? And
I think you just look through it like a telescope or whatever.
I see. Yeah,
You set it up. That's its original box and all that.
yeah, yeah. Now we're moving into another part of the basement in the old Martello Tower in Howth. Ever ready batteries.
Okay, there's one up in there. And just keep the phone with the Pat as well, you know.
All right.
actually.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't
I've
care.
taken over here.
This is when I first come interested in the tower in Howth.
Oh yeah.
Going back about 20 or 25 years ago, when I got a copy of the Dublin Penny Journal.
Yeah.
And I realised that there was a station up here in Howth.
Well, how did you manage to get into this place? Who owned it? Or what?
Well, Fingal County Council own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were kind enough to let me have it.
Fantastic.
Let me have it, you know.
That's very good of them.
Yes, it is, of course, absolutely, and I'm very grateful to them
Yeah.
to give me a chance to show my stuff.
Yeah. That shows foresight and imagination.
Well, I hope so. I
Yes.
hope it does, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But this was the tower here when DeForest broadcast from here.
Yeah.
That was the aerial he used.
Yeah.
That's up over the tower, and that was in 1903. And that's from a copy of the Dublin Penny Journal. It tells you the story there about going across the Holyhead and drinking whiskey and whatever on the cold nights, and they were trying to...
What are these cards you have up in the glass?
Them are
cabinet?
amateur radio cards. Every amateur radio man has his own call sign and he has his card.
Yeah.
And they're from all around the world. But I've tried to include them from all around the world because obviously I couldn't get everything in there. But as you'll see, there's quite a number of Irish ones. Irish Free State, Saoirstad Éireann, and you have... There's actually one there addressed to the Irish Radio Transmitter Society from Uruguay. But they're all, most of them people are dead now, you know.
I see. So an amateur transmitter fella would post one of these to somebody when he comes across it.
When he made contact with him, over the air.
So this was a bit like the internet type of thing, but
an old-fashioned internet,
yeah,
you know, you
yeah,
have it,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's why any radio man would have a load of these cards, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously when he died, they'll pass on, they'll be thrown out or whatever. And it's just to commemorate them here, the radio men, just a sample.
Yeah.
I've put them up in a little case, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, various different people. P.T. Daly, that man there, Palmerstown Road.
Yeah.
I had a man in here one day and he knew him, he worked for him.
Yeah.
He was manager for Huey's, who had a place on Bachelor's Walk. And he was a great amateur radio man. Mm-hmm. So he actually worked with him and knew him. But as I say, like most of them, he's passed on. But it's just to commemorate them. But there was a lot of design in them, you know, if you look, there was a lot of design went into them as well of that tower. Some of them. You have a more modern American one here, Little Hustler.
Yeah.
In the 70s or the 80s, you know. Another one, UFO. Halfway House, you know.
They were miniature works of art.
Absolutely. Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Yeah.
You go on here to the valves.
Oh, yeah.
Them are the old radio valves, or they call them in America tubes.
What are these great big fat round ones here?
Transmitters.
Oh, yeah?
They would have been in a transmitter.
Yeah.
They'd have been in a transmitter.
Yeah.
You know. But again, a lot of work in them. That's an early radio there as well now, like a suitcase model.
Or KB one, yeah.
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 Suitcase model. That was KB on the Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Installed on the Queen Elizabeth.
What's an inductance coil? You've got some boxes with it. It says inductance coil.
Well, that's all part of the radio makeup.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of the radio makeup again. Coils inside of them, same as the valves. Yeah. And there you have early days of advertising television.
Oh, yeah.
Television selection, Barker and Dobson's.
What's a sweet tin? Yeah.
Sweet tin. But advertising television. And you have an earlier one there, advertising tobacco, wireless tobacco.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Even you have a Thunderbirds radio there.
Oh, yeah, from the television series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every different things. Marconi and Mullards and Osram, they had all the valve people.
And they still make these valves then?
Yes, but there's thousands of them made, of course, that have never been used. And
I
in
see.
Stock, but they still make them, yeah.
They've kept them like...
I'm told they're back to using valve equipment again in America.
Why is that?
I don't know. There's more...
the quality
the quality is better, they tell me.
Yeah.
The quality is better.
Well, the old radios certainly had a beautiful quality to the sound of them.
Yes. I suppose the wood had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
A lot of people would only listen to a wooden radio.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they think that the Bakelite wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. There's a hot box, is it, from Cleary's?
That's a hot box from Cleary's. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, she only died there less than 12 months ago, Mrs. Guiney, who was the formation of that company.
Yeah, she was 105 or something.
She was, that's right.
Yeah.
Still signing checks.
Yeah.
But that's a hat box from the 40s.
Yeah.
And if you watch your hat there, as you see, you could post it any part of the world.
Yeah.
There's a place where you write in the address there or whatever, and the date or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and your hat was protected. You have another one there from Macy's, Georgia Street.
Where in New York? Yeah.
No, Georgia Street here, Macy's.
Well, there used to be a Macy
Oh,
here.
there was, absolutely, yeah.
Is it still there? Is it?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I've not seen it, no.
And I suppose Cleary's is now sold out as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
Somebody else going to take over that.
Yeah. The rare old times.
Yes. That's an old amateur radio there.
Yeah. It's like the sort of thing you see in aeroplanes in the olden days.
That's right, absolutely right, yeah. Yes, they've had them in the war, a lot of them in the war as well.
Yeah.
War models.
Yeah.
That's a valve tester there.
Yeah.
That's for testing the valves.
Yeah.
You know, tells you whether they're working or not. You've all sorts of different models here, mostly the 50s down here.
Yeah. I remember seeing the ones like this one here now.
Yes, that's the German, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you had Telefunken and Blaupunkten,
Yeah.
Grundig.
My aunt had one the same as this here now.
Yes, they were actually made in Dundrum.
Oh, were they? Yeah.
Yeah, Pye and Dundrum made that one.
Yeah.
You know. And this one as well here was made by the Irish Electrical Company. You see the harp on it.
Yeah.
That one over there was made by the Irish Electrical Company.
Yeah.
That was the first radio in my collection.
Yeah.
My wife bought that
before
we were married.
Yeah.
In London.
Yeah.
In 1959, 1960.
Yeah.
Little Bush, you know.
Yeah.
So I used to blame her for starting off the collection.
Yeah.
It's a sweet little thing of the time. That was nearly the end of the valve era.
Yeah.
That's the Marconi lettering in which he wrote to the Dublin paper here.
Yeah.
1919.
H.S. Doig Esquire, editor of the Dublin Express and Mail, Parliament Street, Dublin. As 31 Via Garibaldi, Gianicolo, Rome, June the 1st, 1919. Dear Sir, I am in receipt of your letter of March 26th and regret that owing to its having been mislaid, I did not reply to it before this. I remember very well the enterprise shown by the Dublin Express in availing itself for the first time of my system of wireless telegraphy to report the Kingstown regattas in 1898, and, as soon as arrangements shall have been made for the exchange of press wireless telephonic messages between Ireland and the United States and Canada, I will bear in mind the wish that you express that the Dublin Express shall be one of the first to avail of itself of this new method of communication. Yours faithfully, G. Marconi. Well, that's a historical letter.
Yes.
Did you mention the tannoy? Because they were involved with public address.
That's right, absolutely right. Yeah.
A very early example.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it on our way out.
Yeah, right.
There's car radios here and there.
Oh, what's that?
There's a couple of car radios there.
Yeah.
See them there? That's the old Pye car radio.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
And that's an Echo one there.
Yeah.
That's just a part of the collection.
How far back, Pat, were the car? How long ago were they putting radios in cars?
I'd say about 1950s or that. I'd say about
Doesn't go
1950s.
back before that, no.
No, not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. But they could well do. They could well do. I didn't have one.
Now there's a big square loudspeaker here.
Yes, a
Tannoy.
tannoy, yeah. I think that one may have come out of Croke Park when they knocked down Croke Park.
Yeah.
I think that one may have come out there. I got it cleaned up and done up there, you can see. I believe it's still working. I haven't connected it up, but the person I got it off tells me.
Was Tannoy the name of the company? Because
Yes. Yes, I see it there, yeah.
Yeah. Because they're all called Tannoys now.
That's right.
It's like
It's a system rather than a...
Yeah.
It's a system, I think, rather than a manufacturer.
Yeah.
Tannoy of London. Tannoy of London. And of course you have here the father of radio here in Ireland, yeah, Burnham.
This will be the first time we've been looking at a picture of Gay now. That he hasn't been talking to us.
Yes, he lives up the hill here, I gather, at the top of Howth.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Has he visited here yet?
No, he hasn't visited here yet, but I gather he's a busy man.
Yeah.
He had a
Well, he
wedding.
can come up on his motorbike.
He can, of
can't
course. He had a wedding in the family and
Yeah.
a christening, I think, this year.
Yeah.
And of course, it's birthday celebrations and whatever. But he's in good company there with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
Oh, yeah.
All the gang, Barry Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah, that's an original
That's an original.
cinema poster.
That's the American one.
Yeah.
That was the one that they had in the cinemas in America. Very colourful one.
Yeah.
But at one stage I thought that might have been green clouds, but somebody told me it wasn't. Huh?
Yeah.
But I suppose it's part of our history as well now, the Quiet Man.
Yeah.
Surely is. This is more modern one here.
Betty Boop, yeah.
My granddaughter bought me.
Is this a modern one?
It's Betty Boop radio. There's some things you have to include in the collection, you know.
These are the retro things.
Yeah. That's it.
You'll have to send us through your times and opening, and you might give us. Yeah.
Right.
We'll do that upstairs.
What do you think, Kevin? It's something
What?
else. It's something else.
Fantastic.
Isn't it?
It's just, it's like heaven for somebody like me now, this.
I only got that radio there the other day. Guinness are doing it. It's for the Irish rugby team, you know.
Oh, yeah?
This one. It's
Oh
only
yeah, it
just
looks
come
like a
out.
tin of Guinness, yeah.
That's right. They're giving it with
Yeah.
with some cans of Guinness. You have to buy them, of course.
Yeah. Now, are you open here all during the week or just certain times?
During the winter time, up from October to May, I'm open just weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, from 11 to about 3:30, 4 o'clock. In the summertime, I'm open 7 days, from May to October, from 11 to 5.
Yeah.
And all are welcome. There's an admission fee of €5 here,
Yeah.
which I donate to charity at the end of the time.
Yeah. Hall's Pictorial Weekly.
Yeah. There's another thing I just wanted to show you here, how the world has changed.
Yeah.
And it's changed a lot further since. We have a wireless map here
Yeah.
from 1916. And I had some Polish youngsters in here one day. And I was busy with somebody else, and I said, for the moment, I said, have a look around at the maps, you'll find Poland on the maps.
Yeah.
So the girl said to me, of course, there was no Poland on this map.
Yeah. I guess it didn't
Because
exist then. Yeah.
It didn't exist. It was in 1916 and it was part of the Russian Empire,
Yeah.
you know. So I got educated in a couple of seconds. But how much it has changed. It's there all right on the 1931 map,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. It's amazing how things have changed in that length of time. You had the station in Clifton there as well, down in Connemara at that stage.
Yeah.
The station in Clifton there. Then when all the wireless stations from around the world connected up there and strokes and dashes and whatever.
I see Hawaii was quite important because it was midway in the Pacific.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that's it. I have a picture there of Napoleon, who the tower was built to keep out.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and of course he was banished away to St. Helena Island too.
Yeah.
But he never managed to get as far as here.
Now this was built when? 1800 and something, wasn't it?
It should be 200 years old this year, I think, about
Yeah.
1805.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And of course they're dotted around the coast.
Yeah.
And there's very few of them in use, which is a pity.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of use. People living in some of them, of course.
Now
Yeah.
the part we're in now, is this where the soldiers would have lived? Like?
Yes, they actually did, yeah. And even in the Second World War here, you had the Gardaí up here.
Yeah.
They were there. And of course the guns were on the roof.
Yeah.
In the early times the guns were on the roof, and this is sort of living quarters here. downstairs for holding equipment and whatever. But there's 3 towers here in Howth. There's one out on the island, on Ireland's Eye.
Yeah.
There's this one here, which they refer to as Tower Hill in the village. And the other one is down in Sutton, where people live in. So the one in Hutton, Sutton is privately owned.
Do you live locally?
I live in Beaumont.
Oh, Beaumont.
Yeah. Just about a 20-minute spin from here, so it's convenient for me.
It is, yeah.
Pat, you've been more than informative.
I
You've given us a marathon, you have.
I do my best.
You've given us a marathon.
I do my best.
How do you, this is all your own investment here. This is all your own. So how would you, in the summer, for instance, you're spending a lot more time here. So how do you support yourself in that?
Well, I'm retired.
Right.
I'm retired. I'm a pensioner.
Yeah. And you're just happy to have people come up and look at your collection?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Even if it's a one-off, if somebody rings me up and say they're in town or whatever, can you come to the tower? There's no problem, even in the winter time, as long as I'm around. I don't mind. It's my hobby,
Yeah. You said your wife's first radio gave you the buzz. What was it about that one?
Well, my wife has passed on now. My wife died 2 years ago. So it's just the very fact that she bought it. She actually owned it. I didn't own a radio at that stage. And she lived with her sister in a flat in London, and she bought the radio, you see. Normally where I was, we'd have rented out the radio. In them days, you rented out the radio. You paid a shilling a week or 2 shillings a week or whatever. And it was like television was rented after, that time you rented your radio. So where I was, I think the landlord had rented out the radio, but they actually bought their one. So that was the first radio in the collection. We held on to that radio. When we got married, then there was a radio in our house or whatever,
And how did it move from one radio to hundreds?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. She used to say to me, what are you going to do with all those radios? And I'd say, well, you brought the first one.
Where did you keep them before you had this place?
I had my house extended. I had the attic extended. So as I would polish up a radio and whatever, I'd put it up into the attic.
Yeah.
And I kept the other ones in the garage. So I put them up into the attic. And hence it grew from.
How did you get the idea of coming here? What did you realise that the place was going?
Well, of course, as I explained to you earlier, I knew the history of the place.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to go into a place where there was a history of radio or whatever. I could have gone in town or gone to anywhere else, but this was more isolated, but nevertheless they had a history of radio here, with Marconi being here and the Forest being here. I said it was the place too, if I could get it.
Yeah.
So I approached Fingal County Council.
How long ago was this now?
That's only about 18 months ago. And I met a man there who has since died, unfortunately, Michael Galvin. And I talked to him about the idea, and he was impressed with it. So he said they would find somebody that was that knew about radio and whatever to come around and have a look at my collection. So he sent this chap around anyway. 2 of them came around and looked at the collection, and he was duly impressed with it, and went on for a few more months anyway, and eventually got in last May. We had an official opening here last May, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating.
Are you impressed with it?
Very, very impressed, yeah.
I actually have only about a little over half my collection here.
What? Fantastic.
Yes, I have some more.
Yeah. It's very, very comprehensive.
Yes, I've tried to cover the 100 years of radio.
You certainly have.
Yeah,
very,
from the
very
beginning, even before radio, the Morse, into the cable end of it.
Yeah.
Up until the present time.
Yeah.
And as you can see, up to the present time, there's some lovely sets.
Silent during police interviews. He said none of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And every year brings up its own design.
Yeah.
Somebody comes up with something new.
So it's constantly evolving.
Yes, it is, of course, absolutely. And I suppose that's the beautiful part of collecting. It's never dull.
What do you think of radio? Do you think it has any future?
Oh, people said that when television came out, that radio had no future. The great thing about radio is you can listen to it without looking at it. You know, you can. As you see somebody walking along today on the beach or jogging along the beach, and they have their earphones on. They had them on in the 20s at the beginning of radio. So I'm sure that nothing changes in that sense.
Yeah.
You know. I say to people coming up here, you see somebody jogging along the beach there, walking along the road, walking their dog or whatever, they have their earphones on, listening to the radio.
Yeah.
People were doing that in the 20s in their houses. You know. So I suppose, yes, but of course it's very hard to tell the future. When you look at the early telephones like that's here on the corner, you have a telephone there from the 1890s, you know, and I tell children when they come in here there was an early mobile. But they're on to any part of the world now in seconds on the mobile or whatever. And where is that going to end? You know?
Whereabouts are you from, Pat, yourself originally?
Mayo.
Mayo, sorry, Mayo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to narrow you down there.
Wait, they're trying to close me down.
Crossmolina in Mayo.
Yeah, near Crossmolina. Ranamaugh was the name of our village. We lived 3 miles outside the nearest town. Ratnamach, it was known as the Fort of the Bees in English.
Oh, yeah.
And your surname is Hubert or Herbert?
Herbert.
Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert, yeah. Pat Herbert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the family, any of the family still down there as well?
Oh, there are indeed.
Oh, are they?
And I was only down there a fortnight ago. My brother was 70.
Oh, right.
So they had a party for him down there. And my sister is down there.
Oh, very
And I
good.
have 3 brothers in England.
Oh, very good.
No, the family get together.
Yeah.
So you emigrated to England because you
Yes.
didn't get the farm.
Absolutely right. I wasn't going to hang around for it. It was too small.
Yeah.
I had a broader vision. Of course, it never worked out.
Where did you go to in England?
Where did I go to? Oh, London. Everyone wants to go to London, you know, when
Yeah.
they're young.
Yeah.
I went to London, I was in 54, and spent about 6 years there.
Did you work on buildings? and
Yeah,
things?
absolutely. I worked in Vauxhall's car factory, worked in
Yeah.
hotels. I worked in different jobs, different places. And moved down to Bristol, then down the West Country when I got married. I was working in Bristol actually when I got married.
When did you come back to Ireland?
Back to Ireland about 73.
Yeah. Did you find it had changed much? Oh.
Well,
What do you think of Ireland today?
no, I think Ireland is a changed place today.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's much more changed than it was in the 70s. When I came back in the 70s, it hadn't changed much. But I couldn't say that today. Everywhere has changed enormously, you know. Even if I don't go into town for a few months and I go in, I see big changes. It's like, you know, that's how much change is around.
You find the people the same now as
Ah,
when you
no.
left?
Pardon? Ah, no. It's a different way of life. A different way of life. People don't have time to talk now or whatever, you know, like we are now. Everybody is rushing. They're rushing to get to work, they're rushing to get home, they're rushing to get out, you know.
Yeah.
So you feel that modern society has changed people's, let's say, the way they behave, like?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it has, of course. Oh, it's changed, you know. When we were growing up, we're living out in the country. Everybody you'd meet, you'd know them, you know.
Yeah.
For miles around you, because the houses were fairly isolated or spaced out. But of course, everything has changed now, even there.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you walk to school?
Oh, I did a course. Actually,
How far did you have
the
to
school
walk?
was built on our land.
Oh yeah.
The school was built on our land,
Yeah.
so I could see the school from the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is very convenient, and it's still open today.
Yeah.
You know, it's still open today. But the funny thing about it was, I used to often wonder, the sign on the school outside was dashed over with cement or whatever, you know. So you couldn't recognise the sign.
Yeah.
And I gather it was done because in the war years, they didn't want it, for whatever reason.
So spies wouldn't know where they
That's
were.
absolutely right, yeah. I suppose that has something to do with
Oh,
it,
I see. Yeah.
you know. So it was actually cleaned off then, and later on about the 50s or that, you know.
Yeah.
They wanted to wait until the war was well settled and well over.
Did you ever work in Ireland before you left?
I did
Or was-
indeed, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I worked for a few months on board Namona, as it
Yeah.
was called then,
Yeah.
you know, working back in the bog, you
Yeah.
know, preparing it for suppose, draining of the bog, really.
Yeah.
You know. And I went down there a couple of years ago. Myself and my wife took a train used to take us down the bog.
Oh yeah.
Known as a loco.
In Offaly, I think, wasn't it?
No, this was in Mayo.
Oh, was this in Mayo?
This was in Mayo. Yeah, we had our own bog down there.
Oh, I see.
Plenty of it. But we took a nostalgic trip down there.
Yeah.
You know.
I didn't know they had a train on that bog now.
They did then, yeah, from Ballacorrick.
Yeah.
That was before the power station was there. And it went right down the bog. And the power station grew from that, really, you know. Because
Did you ever see anything strange in the bog? Any sort of old remains of anything, like a skeleton or anything?
Well, no, we've often, you'd get the bog oak.
Yeah.
When you dig out the turf, you'd get the bog oak, all right. But of course, where my mother comes from, or where my mother came from, is back overlooking the Cajun fields.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard of the Cajun fields?
Ah, yeah.
It's one of the oldest habitations in Europe was there.
Yeah.
And they found the villages under the bog there.
Yeah.
They have them exposed. I don't know if you've ever been down there.
No, I haven't. I've only read about it now.
Yeah, well, it's well worth a visit.
Mm.
But the village, the bog grew over the village. It's 5,000 years old.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. One of the oldest habitations in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, was there. And it's all exposed. There's a man, he's a professor out in UCD there of archaeology, Seamus Caulfield.
Yeah.
He comes from the village there.
Yeah.
And his father was a teacher in the school. And he thought it was something strange when he used to cut the turf or whatever. He'd come on these remains down underneath.
Yeah.
So I suppose, leading on from that, he sent his son to UCD to be an archaeologist or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he studied it. And he found the village under the bog there and exposed it all, you know.
Did they ever figure out what happened to the people? Why did they leave or anything?
Oh, I'm sure I think the climate changed everything. It's right overlooking the Atlantic, you see.
I see, yeah.
And I think the climate changed everything for people.
Yeah.
And they just moved on from there or whatever, you know. Well, that's where my mother comes from there, and that's where she came from.
Yeah.
And it's right actually up on the hill overlooking the Cajun fields.
What sort of farming did you do? Just subsistence? Cow and a sheep?
Existence, just.
Existence, yeah.
Just existence.
Yeah.
I go back there, you know, I suppose people's roots, I suppose, take them back. They like to go back where they came from or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I ever lived there, only on holidays a few times. But my family comes from there. My mother's people came from there. And I like to go back there most times. I go down home when I have time. But the old homesteads are still there. Where my mother was brought up, the house is there. And it's just a cattle shed now or whatever.
Do you feel sad when you see it?
I do. And yet I see a sense of satisfaction as well, of knowing your roots or whatever. Everybody doesn't have that privilege.
No.
You know. And the old house that was there for the generations before, it's just a stone building.
Yeah.
Where there was no plaster or anything on the walls, just a bare stone. And a couple of flags outside the door. And I was often tempted to bring a flag home and put it outside my own door. Yeah. But I just never got around to it. Yeah. But it was very, very isolated.
Yeah.
You know. But it's just to go back there and see how people lived. You know, what as you say, existed.
Yeah.
You know, there was no what you'd call green fields. You didn't have any of that, you know. And
what was it, all stones?
Yes, it's a bog, really.
Bog, yeah?
Yeah, bogland. But
was there enough grass for a cow now?
Well, the cow would pick all right, but she never had what you'd call any grass. The little bit of grass that was there in one little field, I suppose that was kept for the hay.
Yeah.
But I remember my uncle, one of my earliest memories, the grass that would grow on a ditch, right? He had a hook, and he'd get this hook. In fact, I picked up one yesterday. And he'd get the hook, and he'd pare, like somebody having a crew cut, he would pare that ditch, every bit of grass off it, with the hook, and save it for the cows for the winter.
Oh, yeah.
So you can figure how tough an existence it was.
So we got his hay off the long acre.
Absolutely. And when you know all the grass that would go to waste in a normal countryside road. Yeah. Oh, there was nothing went to waste there. Yeah. Nothing went to waste.
When you lived there, did you realise that you were poor, or was it afterwards you realised that because often people say they didn't know they were poor, so they didn't.
I didn't live there.
You know.
We were never that poor.
Yeah.
I didn't live there.
Yeah.
That's where my mother came from.
Oh, I see,
we
yeah.
lived in a different place.
Yeah.
But we used to just go back there on holidays,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, for a couple of weeks of the summer or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember my grandmother, and she would load a creel. I know, you've seen a creel.
creel.
You've probably seen it on a donkey.
Yeah.
But she used to carry this creel herself.
Yeah.
There was 2 armbands in it.
Yeah.
And she would go up and load the creel and carry it down to the house with the turf and her bare feet, you know. A real peasant woman, if you like, of the times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never saw, what she never saw in her life a car, or what they said, the mail car used to come there, but she was too far away from Ballycastle to see the mail car. She never actually saw a car. The only car that went in there, as I say, was the mail car, and that was about 10 or 12 miles away. So she never saw a car in her lifetime. But things changed for my generation. My mother went to America when she was young, and my father and mother met in America. So, and of course that was during the Depression in America in the late 20s or whatever. So they came home from America in 36, Christmas of 36, and some old aunt of my father gave them a farm of land, and they settled there.
Oh, so they were living on better land than that.
Much better land. I would classify our land as good limestone land.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. You know, my mother, of course, having lived in America, would have been critical and say, there's nothing around the west of Ireland, there's nothing here, you know. Which there wasn't that time, let's face it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I remember being home on holidays from England in the early 50s, you know. And of course, I see 2 sides of the coin then, because I was working in England, you know. And the food wasn't great in England after the war or whatever in the early 50s. Or
No,
whatever.
it was not, no.
You know, as you probably know yourself.
I don't remember.
But I remember being home on holidays anyway, and the food was great, you know, in the west of Ireland.
Bacon and eggs.
Had everything you see.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was thinking this up anyway. And I said, the next time Mother moans now about the conditions in Ireland or whatever, or the state of the art here, I'm going to have a talk with her. So anyway, come the afternoon, anyway, she said, sure, I suppose you're dying to get back again to England, there's nothing here. I said, what do you mean there's nothing here? I said, you have everything here. What do you mean? She said, there's nothing here. I said, listen now, we got up this morning before we went to Mass, and you put on bacon and eggs there, and brown bread, all home produced, right? Best of everything. Lunchtime came, there was a chicken killed for this thing. That time it would be boiled, you'd have the soup and all the vegetables with it and whatever. New potatoes, every damn thing. The evening time came, they had all fresh vegetables, carrots, you name it, lettuce, beetroot, all home produced, and a wedge of salmon that size. They had everything there. And I said, if that wasn't enough, you washed it down with a glass of poachine, home produced, and a second one if you felt like it. And they had everything and they didn't know it. You know, everybody wasn't as lucky in Ireland. But, you know, that was, as I said, that was an ordinary country house. So they had everything at that time. So going back from my grandmother's time, they'd have a lot of the things then to eat. All right, they'd have the salmon or whatever, fresh salmon, but they didn't have any land to grow vegetables there or whatever, you know. But it depended, I suppose, on where you were living. In the cities in the 50s, like when we had that standard down in the west of Ireland, in the cities they didn't have that, you know. You had as Frank McCourt referred to it as the laners, and you had the tenements and whatever. Then people had a very, very tough time, you know, which we didn't have. Although we didn't, as my mother said, we had nothing, but they did have everything really.
So the people in the country always had enough to eat?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even in wartime or whatever. There might be short of tea. Of course, that was always the big, the moan, there was no tea. And they didn't like coffee or whatever, you know. And of course, there was tea, great scarcity of tea after the war or whatever. But they really had everything, really. And I remember as well, of course, there was a great scarcity of tobacco. We're talking about the woodbines earlier. There was a great scarcity of tobacco after the war. It was rationed, you see. You couldn't get it. And I remember we used to grow flax and beet and stuff like that on our land, which was fairly good. But we had beet anyway, and that time when you send beet away to the factory, you'd get the beet pulp back. You see, you could feed it to the animals, the beet pulp. But I always remember one evening that we're waiting for the beet pulp from my father to bring the beet pulp from town. And there was this crowd of people had converged on the house. And what they were coming for was to get the beet pulp to smoke it. They actually rolled it up in bits of paper and pipes and everything, smoked it. They had no tobacco. Yeah, it was a time when tobacco was scarce. And there was no tobacco, in fact, after the war when it was rationed. And we had beet which we sent away to the factory to get it sold to the factory, in fact. But at that time you'd get the beet pulp back to feed to the cattle or whatever. They had no use for it in the factory. So you got it back. Whatever you sent away, you got all those bags back. And a lot of people converged on the house anyway, waiting for the beet pulp to come back. And I didn't know it, as a child, didn't know what all this was about. But when the beet pulp come back anyway, they all dived into it, and they were smoking it in pipes and rolling it up and whatever. And it was a substitute for tobacco. And you know, I think it could be a good thing today maybe if people smoked that. I was asking my niece, who's a health inspector, health and safety inspector down the west, I asked her about it, and she said it's perfectly legitimate to smoke it in the pub. So there you go. Now, isn't that a substitute for WD and H.O. Wills? Yeah, that's Jack Feeney. I was playing there earlier on when you come in. Yeah. That's America from the 30s. He was a tenor in America.
He was very popular then.
Yes,
and he was very, very popular.
He broadcast.
Yeah, I've heard about him on the radio. You know,
Schaefer beer. That's what he the crowd he worked for.
Don't overwind it. No, it's hard to get the springs.
You get them easier than you get the ones that was thrown out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the problem with that is
I have plenty more.
It's to do with the sharpness of it.
Yeah.
Just a year ago today I left old dear and died. My heart was throbbing in the sunlight of my body.
Oh, right.
See, apparently.
That's great because that sounds really old.
It does.
This now, they used to talk here. You know the old kitchens in America.
Yeah.
When they had prohibition there, they used to have the she beans and
That's
all
right.
that.
Yeah.
This is the type of music. This is really.
Perfect. Let's have a little.
It might just do you. It might. And I'll put it on the big gramophone above. And
they are some machines. I have to say, they are just beautiful pieces.
that's the Killy Hills Barn Dance, and that's the Geese in the Bog. Now, it's accordion and banjo duet by the Flanagan brothers. This might be one of the records now they sing on, I'm not sure, but if it's not, I'll get another one.
Every time I wind mine, I'm very careful in case it goes spring and then the spring's gone.
It might be just what you're looking for, it mightn't.
Hello, Mr. Reagan. Hello. Take your partners for a Irish set. Fill them up, fill them up. That's the stuff. 2 more couples over here. This way, O'Brien. All right. You over there, Betty and Johnny. Let's see now. All ready? All ready now? Give it the gas now. Give it the geese the bar, will you? All right.
But they were great entertainers, you see. A lot of the Irish people that went that time, they were all musicians.
Yes.
Coming from
That's right. They brought the music with them.
They brought the music with them, absolutely, yeah. And that was the early days of the Flanagan brothers, and there's a lot more of them there at that time, you know.
Yeah.
They were brilliant.
Yeah.
It's funny how it comes through, their joyfulness, isn't it?
Oh, it is, of course, that's right. And you see, I think at that era too, you had the whatever spiritual band in America, whatever, you know, so you should have the she-beans, that have the house parties and whatever.
Yeah.
Make their own drop, you see.
And that's tin. What they call that? Is that tin?
That's tin horn, yeah. That's a tin, yeah.
It's a tin horn Cambley.
Yeah. Imagine to think that that's wood. That's a wooden horn.
Yeah,
Can you believe that?
You think an awful lot of work went into
Look
it.
at the work that's in that there.
Ah, yeah, absolutely.
Look at the way that had to be done. Look.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I have a lovely one at home which I haven't in here. I have no room for it. It's a brass horn, but it's a French one.
They knew about style, didn't they?
The Pate brothers.
Oh,
See,
really?
see, the
French
Pate
family,
brothers.
yeah.
Do you remember the Pate
News,
News and all
yeah.
that? That's where
With
that
the
came
cock
from.
crowing, yeah.
That's right. The cock and all is on it, yeah. Well, it's on. He's actually on the radio. The car is on the gramophone. The cock. Yeah. But Pate's made a record, which I don't think I have any here now, but I have a good few at home, and it actually starts in the middle and plays out.
Oh,
Did you ever see one?
No.
The worm was going the other way on the thing.
Yeah, it's called a Pate disc.
Yeah.
Right, and it plays from the middle out, and it's not played with a needle at all. It's played with a jewel. See, a needle would damage the record.
Yes.
But it's kind of a soft wax, and it's played with what's called a jewel. It's kind of a flat needle.
Like a sapphire.
Yes. But it's Pates, and they're lovely, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't make them for long. They made the phonographs as well before the gramophone, you know.
Would you know this now? This is a private request. Do you know where I can get springs from? Because I've got one with a broken spring.
Well, you see, I do, but it depends what sort of a gramophone it is.
It's similar to that one.
Similar to the portable. I might have a spring at home, do you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. But I have a friend down in Clontarf. I was referring to the mailing of the Bozangs.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bozang, she's a doctor of music.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
But her husband and I've known her for years with gramophones. He used to repair the springs and whatever.
Yeah.
But there a couple of years ago anyway, he got a blinking, he had to have the bypass, and he's not the best.
Because there's a governor and everything spinning around.
That's right. Yeah. So they moved house there earlier this year.
Yeah.
Last year, sorry, the end of last year. They moved from one part of Clontarf to a smaller house. And she said to me, what are we going to do with all this stuff? I said, I'll tell you now what I'll do, Ita. I'll put it into the auction room. Dump it, she said. I said, no, but I'll put it into the auction room. And he had loads of springs and all sorts of parts of gramophones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boxes of them. Yeah. I took them out of Herman Wilkinson's out of only a month ago, the first week in February. Yeah. And they sold out there, and they went boxes of lovely stuff there for €6 and €7 and €10.